I felt vindicated recently with, I don't know, a couple years ago, right? It was E3 2018. And
that would have been a couple of years ago, yeah.
Yeah. Well, which way does time, time gets compressed for everybody.
Time
now.
is a flat circle.
Yeah, it's some weird shit. So like E3 2018, Sony did their presentation, and everybody, well, a good chunk of people made fun of it. They were like, they only showed 4 games. They had the people in the audience move from one auditorium to the next so that they could see the next thing, and it was just music and then little scenes. Meanwhile, everybody else showed 1,000 games. And I remember,
that sounds like a quality control kind of a thing. You're like, look, we made 4 really, fleshed out decent things, or here's like 1,000 things that you can spend 1 million hours on but not feel anything for.
Yeah, and you know what, that's really, to me, that's what it was. Like, when I saw those 4 games, they all were games that I was like, I want to know more.
Yeah.
And I want to buy these games.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So
please let me buy them.
All 4 of those games have now been released.
Okay.
The games that went out there that were shown on there. And the first one that I think of, and I like to relate these to food.
Okay.
I like to relate them to nice restaurant dishes. And so the first one I think about is Spider-Man, which is Spider-Man for PS4 is probably the greatest steak you've ever had.
Uh-huh.
But you get like 3 ounces of it, and then that's it.
Okay.
So like it's an awesome game, but I only have 2 platinum trophies on my PlayStation.
Uh-huh.
On my PlayStation 4.
And I don't have a PlayStation, so I'm not exactly sure what that means.
Platinum is the trophy that you get when you got all your all other trophies. So it's the trophy to rule all trophies. And I only say that because the first one is for Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor.
Okay.
I have a platinum on that one. And and Spider-Man is the second one. For Shadow of Mordor, it took me a couple of months to get that trophy because there were certain things that you had to do where it was like, do this and kill this many enemies in 10 seconds. For Spider-Man, I did it in less than a week.
You got a platinum in less than a week?
Yeah, I did finish the story. I finished everything having to do with the vanilla version of the game in less than a week. But boy, did I have fun doing it. I mean, I think when I first unwrapped the game, I think you were over at my house.
Yeah, you were in the middle of some sort of project that you were doing, and you were playing it for a little bit, and you're like, "Hey, come, try it out." Like, as I was sitting here, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm interested because I love Spider-Man games."
Yeah.
And so I started playing it, and I was like, I didn't want to play through any of the story because I didn't want to ruin any of the story for you. So I was like, I'll just do all this side stuff. It's like find backpacks or like activate an antenna or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And then that in turn like opens up maps and car chases and whatever else. And I was like, this is like, it took some getting used to for the web swinging around, but I was like, this is really fun. Like, this is a lot of fun. Like, and I think I played it for like 2 hours maybe.
Yeah.
So,
and it's a consummate Spider-Man story, but then you start it and then it's over. And then they had 2 DLC packs that are pretty much the same. Like they were one sitting. Like I sat down, played through the DLC packs, and then that was it. And then they were gone. So the second game would be Death Stranding. And Death Stranding
I don't think you ever bought that. Right?
No, that's the only one that I did not get. And and it's not because it's a bad game. I've seen people play it on Twitch. It looks really good. But I would equate Death Stranding to one of these like gastropub type places where they have the new age food and they like feed you like egg yolks through like a syringe that they put little balls of egg yolk around a plate with a piece of fish that was sous vide to death, and then they're like, well, you have to take a little piece of this and a little piece of that and put them all together, and it tastes great. And then when you eat it, you're like,
I don't know what I'm eating.
I taste an Egg McMuffin, but I put mush in my mouth. I don't know what happened.
Well, there's and then in a show called Parks and Rec, they all go to one of these bars, It's one of these fancy things, and like somebody orders a whiskey, and then they want to like, it's like, oh, here's your whiskey, and it's like a lotion that they put in their hands. And he's like, what am I doing? What is this? It's like, I'm not comfortable here.
That's exactly it.
It's like, you ordered a vodka tonic, sir? Yeah. And it's like, okay, here it is. We serve it in a light beam. What am I playing? What is going on here?
So
this is not how you consume like nutrients.
With Death Stranding, I couldn't get over the little baby in the little pod thing that Norman Reedus is carrying around.
Yeah.
That
I've watched, trying to grasp a hold of this when it came out. Like, I've watched a number of people describe the storyline to this, and they can't.
No,
they're like, there's a thing,
or if they can, you're more confused when they're done, than when they started. You're like, what?
And like, basically, he's a FedEx guy through a wasteland, but there's a time stream, and he might be going in backwards in time. And the baby might have been the first baby, but it's the start of a new era of time after the world is destroyed by some lady who's in charge of the time streams.
And there's dead things.
And she's going to destroy this timeline, but you got to protect the baby so that time can keep going. And then, and like, I'm like, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sounds, yeah. And like, Norman Reedus delivers packages, right? Like, that's what he's doing.
I just remember the very hilarious oversized stack of packages that some people playing the game run around with, and it's like I can't see the character anymore. I just see a bunch of boxes with legs.
And then there's a urine mechanic, like you have to pee. It's
Hideo Kojima, so very likely.
So, but like there was an interesting concept to it, and I don't know if this is an actual thing or not, but what I think I gathered was that when you're playing the game is on a server, and that server is shared with everyone that's ever played the game. So this is where the time thing comes in. So if someone built a bridge over something and you come into contact with that particular area during a time before it deteriorates, like you're able to use that bridge and get across stuff because you've used it before or something, like some weird kind of like interesting, like, hey, I'm gonna like, you're on the road and like, oh, for the next person that needs food, like here's a bag of food. And
that almost sounds like a quantum version of what No Man's Sky was supposed to be.
Or something. Yeah. But like No Man's Sky is just, you don't really interact with anyone.
Which then brings us to the redheaded stepchild. And when I say redheaded stepchild, I mean like a really high-performing redheaded stepchild that everybody hates, but they shouldn't. And that's The Last of Us 2. And I equate The Last of Us 2 to some wonderful, huge wings that are all the drums.
Yeah.
But they're huge, right? Like mutant, like we fed these chickens some steroids. And
they're not healthy to eat.
they're lathered in the super 911 sauce that makes your tongue leave your mouth and run to the restroom on its own to dip itself in water, in whatever water it finds. And I think when
makes it sound like it's going to the toilet.
It very well might. Whatever it is to like, because like for me, I played through the game and I had to, there were parts in Last of Us 2 where I had to stop and I had to like walk away because it gets very intense. And I've seen videos where people who are much more skilled than I at the game just go in and just bow and arrow, shotgun, they like run through people. But at the same time, when you're just playing the game as a regular person and you're just going through stuff, some of the scenes in this game get a little intense. I know you have the Can't Sleep series. It does not compare to Resident Evil 7 at all. But it is up there. It is up there.
There's some things in there where if you're not ready for it, like I'm kind of a twisted person anyway, but like, you see and you're like, ugh. But that was a series that I needed a break from. When I did Resident Evil 2 the first time and you're getting chased by Mr. X, like room to room to room to room, I was like, because you're in like high alert panic mode for like, an hour or so, and I'm like, I need a break. Like I got to a safe room, I got somewhere poured away, I can still hear his footsteps clunking around out there, and I'm like, I need like 10 minutes. I'm like, I'm gonna use the bathroom, get some water. I'm like, and then you go out and you like
get a free therapy session.
I don't know if you've ever had this, but like you've been so engrossed in a thing that you're doing, and like you're intensely into it, and you don't realize how much time has passed. And then you're like, I've been on that for 5 hours. God, man, I'm hungry. Like I haven't.
Oh yeah,
like I haven't eaten. What time is it? I'm like, it's 1 PM. I got up at 6. Like I haven't eaten anything yet.
Yeah,
what's going on?
That's 100%. That happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
What I will say is to bring it to The Last of Us 2. I know we did a whole episode on this, but Last of Us 2 is basically what Resident Evil meets Walking Dead with the Uncharted formula. So like,
which sounds fun,
Yeah, but whereas like when I've seen you play Resident Evil, you're playing it on like up there on difficulty
currently.
Yeah. And so every enemy you come across is a sponge, and they give you like 10 bullets.
Yeah. I gotta take the knife to some of these last ones.
Yeah.
And it's like, even then, like you're stabbing it in the face like 5-6 times, and it's like, it's not dying. Like,
no, it's not doing
I can take one hit, and I'm like, dodge. Nope, I missed.
I remember you saying like the block isn't doing nothing.
The block's not doing anything.
But with Last of Us, it's similar in that you don't get a lot of ammunition.
Yeah.
But you get a much wider array of weapons. So like,
well, because like if you kill somebody, like you can immediately grab their stuff.
Yeah, you can grab their ammo, you can grab or their weapon or whatever. And some of the stuff that you can do, like you can grab an enemy, get one of the infected to come in your direction and push him into the infected so they get killed, and then chop the infected up. Whatever. Yeah. There's no one way to get through this game.
Yeah.
So
those are good wings, yeah, but they're a little spicy,
like very spicy.
Yeah.
And then you have Ghost of Tsushima, which is the last of the 4 from 2018 that they showed. And Ghost of Tsushima is like the stew that your mom made when you were a little kid, and now you make it. It's almost like if you were to say like, did you ever see Ratatouille?
Yeah.
You know that iconic scene where he puts he
puts it in his mouth,
and he's a little kid again.
Transports him back in time, and
so it doesn't go that far back, but I would say Ghost of Tsushima probably got released I want to say a year too late, only for the nostalgic factor of it still being in the 2010s.
Yeah.
Ghost of Tsushima to me takes all of the gameplay mechanics that we discovered and fell in love with in the 2010s and puts it together in this wonderful little samurai package where when you're playing it, you're like, oh yeah, grappling hook. Nice. And simple, not oversimplistic, but the combat mechanics, oh yeah, I got to build up my muscle memory. And if I get hit a couple times, I get Dark Souled to death. All right. But it's not From Software, but it's, because the combat, like From Software games, the combat's not really pretty. It's like hack away and dodge and hack away and parry and hack away and, where this, it's like you don't have to do much of that and you can kind of lay waste to your foes, right?
Oh, that's what anyone wants.
So it's, but if you
and hear the lamentations of their women,
yes, but if you look away from the screen for 2 seconds, you're gonna get bashed in the face. And the fun thing is in this game, like when you die, you don't die. Like you run you're out of health. You hit the ground and you're still kind of crawling, and your enemy will come up to you and just go whap and hit and like put a sword through you in the same way that you would do to them.
Yeah.
So it kind of brings that full circle, but yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is a hearty stew. It's
filling.
It's that. It gives you everything you want, and it's in a package that is very wholesome and very appetizing. And with that said, this is the end of the Species podcast because we never do proper introductions at the first time. I'm Jeff.
I'm Adam.
And we are going to talk today about Ghost of Tsushima. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be kind of walking a tightrope on here because Ghost of Tsushima came out not too long after Last of Us 2. I'm still very, very bitter about that, if you couldn't tell. And
as I think a lot of people are, because I'm sure there's people that love that game and feel that it was done unjustly in critics and whatever. And then, there's other people that hate it for whatever their, reason is. But, it seems like it wasn't given that fair of a chance, but it also was like a game that was really anticipated. So I'm not exactly sure, if you like the game, the first one, why did you hate on the second one? If not, why, if you didn't like it,
I could go about it for hours, but I want to lay this disclaimer. I'm going to start off by saying I love Ghost of Tsushima. Having said that, we're just going to do a discussion about it. So there are going to be things that I'm going to highlight that, and I think we're both going to kind of agree on or disagree on and just talk about that are going to make it seem like, oh, maybe you didn't like the game. That's not the case. I'm just talking about the game in general. Not every...
Because you can have a general, well-thought, meaningful critique on something and still enjoy the thing as a whole.
I'm sick of this whole thing where every single game is either the next Ocarina of Time or the next E.T. There's nothing in between. You're either a 10, 5 stars, best game of the decade I've ever played.
Yeah.
Or you're like, oh, you scammed us out of this money. I want my money back because this game is horrible. It's less than nothing.
Right.
And it's like, there are little steps in between.
Well, that was how I felt with Warcraft 3, the reforging of that. I heard that, it was terrible and, everyone's demanding their money back. And I'm like, well, let me give it a minute. Let them put in a patch or an update or whatever. And then when I went through and played it, I'm like, it's fine. What's wrong with any of this?
Let's get used to patches. There's only one company that I know of that puts out a game
and it's done day one.
Yeah, and a month in, you still don't need a patch, and that's Nintendo.
Yeah.
Nintendo, I still remember I got Pokemon Sword and Shield way after release, and I was just like, click into my Switch, play. No update? No, just play the game. Oh, okay. All right.
And then you said you eventually got one patch, and it's like patch 0.001 or whatever, and then it added a button or whatever.
It was like adding a gameplay thing, something to the game where it's like, okay, we wanted to add this additional content, and here you go. And it's not like, oh, we're gonna fix this bug that destroyed your entire gameplay. We forgot to patch in this level, so when you walk through the door, your entire Switch breaks. No, it's just, whatever. That's patches. So I want to start off by talking about the plot and to Ghost of Tsushima. And there's not much to say about the plot. It is it's a decent gameplay thing. You get introduced to Khoton Khan, which is the main bad guy. You get introduced to the people who influence the main character, Yuna. The main ones are a character named Yuna, who is a thief, sort of. She's just a poor peasant who has to do what she has to do to get by.
Yeah.
So he's kind of learning that. And then there's the Jin Sakai, who's the main character, his uncle, Lord Shimura, who is a samurai, and he is very honor-based. You have to do what the shogun says, and we face our enemies head-on kind of thing. So it lays it on kind of thick. And I'm going to say, if you play about an hour into this story, and then you stop, and you walk away, and then you go back, and you're like, let me guess what the ending is going to be. You're probably right. 95% chance you're right. It's basically that. You're going to end up, going after the main bad guy. There's not really a twist there. It's just you go after the main bad guy. And then your usage of whether you're the ghost or samurai or whatever, and as you become the Ghost of Tsushima, that decision comes to a head. That's it. I mean, there's a lot more to it in that it's a nice open world game and you have a lot of side quests and you get to explore the island of Tsushima, and the island of Tsushima is very beautiful. You get to learn its people and you help a lot of people along the way, and you try to help people along the way, and sometimes it doesn't work. So it's that kind of thing. But
it's an adventure game.
Yeah, but for the most part, the main story is you are going after the bad guy, and you also have to kind of like, not you, but Jin Sakai is wrestling between these two worlds that are saying, use my method to kill the bad guys. And that's it. One thing I'll say is that there was a big opportunity missed here by Sucker Punch, who, by the way, did the Infamous series.
Okay.
There's no like good guy, bad guy scale here. And I kind of get it in that they're trying to tell a specific story. But the story kind of centers on Jin, who is a samurai, doing things that are less than honorable, but they're still the right thing. He's doing it to save his people.
Yeah.
So they could have,
and a lot of times you have to be kind of sneaky.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just be like, you have just disgraced me, face me, and I will defend my honor and you will defend yours, whatever. But like, if you're fighting a war, like sometimes you have to like hide on a roof and jump down and stab a guy through the top of the head. It's a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And like what I'll say is I can sense that there's a way. I'm not a game designer, so I'm not going to try to second guess what their decisions were for the game, but I'm pretty sure that there was a way that they could have made some sort of like honor slide to give the player some agency, because you can actually go through this entire game minus the story parts that say don't be seen, right?
Yeah.
Because you do have to become the Ghost of Tsushima. But minus that, you can go through this entire game and just walk into places and go, come on and face me.
Yeah.
And be a samurai. You can absolutely do that if you wanted to. So that just seemed like a missed opportunity story-wise. But outside of that, the plot,
basic, yeah.
Pretty basic, pretty straightforward.
Well, I mean, as long as this continues to do well, there's always an opportunity for a 2, and like, you add in that kind of a thing.
Hey, Sucker Punch, are you hearing? If you guys decide to put a moral scale in your second game, you can PayPal us. Just whatever nominal
good
fee.
Ideas. Have us hire us to your team. Like,
just send whatever nominal fee you think is fair. 7, 8 figures, whatever.
Yeah.
Just send it over, and we'll just call that even for us having this idea that made your game a little better.
Yeah,
isn't that great? But yeah. So having said that, the samurai code stuff versus the ghost weapons items and things, you get ghost weapons such as.
So the ghost weapon, like being a samurai and being a ghost, is like a difference of being like a samurai, like a soldier, and being like a ninja kind of a thing, like an assassin.
All right.
So it's what I'm gathering, right?
I think the best way for me to say it is like, all right, when I say that this game takes, it's like everything we've learned over the past 10, 12 years in gaming and just puts it together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say if you take Arkham City, Skyrim, Grand Theft Auto X, probably 5.
Pick one. Yeah, well, 5 has been out since 12, right? 2012?
Since 2013. But yeah, so early 2010s.
That's this decade kind of thing. So,
and
sure.
And Dark Souls, right? I'm going to use those 4 games. I'm going to use Arkham City here, and and so being a samurai versus being
Batman
versus being the ghost would be the difference between Batman walking up to the courthouse and that crowd in front of the courthouse and just going, "Come on,"
yeah,
versus perching up on top and like grabbing a few of them, dropping smoke, knocking a few of them out, and using whatever tool you have at your disposal. Where by the time you got rid of the crowd, they didn't even know you were there, and then you just grapple right back up. So that's kind of the difference.
Okay.
And so that's that's a thing.
It's nice to have options when you're playing a game because then you feel like it's less linear. You feel like you've made the decision.
And so like you get a variety of tools. You obviously you have to have smoke. When
Ghost. Yeah.
Drop a smoke bomb and everybody gets disoriented. My favorite thing in this game is the kunai, which is like the little throwing. They're not stars, but they're like the throwing knives.
Oh, it's like a dagger, and it's got the handle has like a ring on the end of it.
Yeah,
and then
and so as you upgrade that, you can throw more at the same time by so it's like, let's say you can have 5 total in your inventory. For each one that you throw, you can actually throw up to like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7.
Okay.
So if you're running into and there's gear that actually upgrades and charms that you can put on that upgrades the amount that you can throw at one time, while still only using 1 unit of ammo.
Oh, okay.
So like if you're coming up on a group of enemies,
it's a Jesus kind of thing. Like instead of fish, instead of fish, it's flying daggers.
Like, hey, I only have 1, but you all get a taste. Everybody gets a taste of this. But it's a really good way to like disperse a crowd.
Throwing daggers into a crowd, that sounds like a good way to get everyone to leave.
Yeah. And then
that and fireworks,
Well, you get firecrackers. Firecrackers will distract enemies, and wind chimes that distract enemies. And then sticky bombs. And they actually describe like how he makes the sticky bombs, like using black powder and tar and whatever. And when you throw it, it sticks to the enemy and then it explodes. And so you can get all of these weapons and you upgrade them as you go. It's a pretty decent like way to upgrade and craft and whatnot. And then they weren't lying in this game when they said you can customize your guy. Like you name it. I think I turned it on yesterday and I was trying to get like the Sly Cooper trophy, because you can actually and here's the thing.
The bandit raccoon?
Yeah, well, Sucker Punch did Sly Cooper, and you can dress up. It says dress up in the manner of like a legendary thief, and they mean Sly Cooper.
Okay.
But it's not like other games where it's like silly, where you get the thing and all of a sudden you're dressed up as a raccoon in the game.
Yeah.
No, it's actually a samurai level gear that just happens to be blue and gold. A headband that has the Sly Cooper cane on it. So it's just like it's a regular headband. And then a samurai sword, and the sheath for it is like a tanuki tail.
Okay.
So that is a thing. Like there are sheaths like that. So it's not like you still look like a samurai, but it's almost like, oh, we're paying homage to this character.
It's less goofball. Like it's like, once you find this particular package under a rock and give it to somebody and whatever and go back, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you've got a for lack of a better reference, like a mascot uniform, like from, football or the NBA or whatever, and it's like I got a big zipper in the back, and I'm like, oh, look, you can run around. This something that's completely not in this time frame or period or had the materials to work with or whatever. But like,
play the game as Sly Cooper. No, and no, you're 100% right. And so like,
because those have been things.
Almost too much. And it seems like
I'm looking at you, Hitman.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah, and like it almost seems like it breaks the realism. And even, you know what? I think there was I think it was Shadow of the Tomb Raider where you could they had a skin for the new Lara Croft that was the old Lara Croft.
Okay.
And it looked like a PS1 character with the whole thing, and it was just like that's fine, but like
who's really gonna play that?
Yeah, like, that breaks it. It's I would say it's different from when in Hyrule Warriors you can use the 8-bit weapons.
Yeah.
because that's Hyrule, and like we're talking about, whatever. There's a lot of realism, of disbelief that you can suspend right off the rip.
And even then, like Hyrule Warriors was kind of a caricature of a Zelda game anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like not meant to be taken that seriously.
Correct.
Although Ganon's hair in that was on point. Like
I think Ganon as a character in that game was
solid.
Chilling.
Yeah.
And Ganon and Ganondorf, both of those character models.
Well, I meant Ganondorf, but like, Ganon, the giant pig monster.
Fuck game, stop.
That was the character models for those were on point.
So but anyway, bringing it back to this, like, so you've got ghost weapons, and then you've got like the samurai thing, which is more and stuff that I've seen you play is like you're very honor bound, and you're like, oh, we're gonna 1-on-1, and it's almost like a old West duel but with swords.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go into this. I think we'll get into this a little more later in the episode, but like it's that for like if you watch old samurai movies, that whole thing where it's not as
Kurosawa, which there's a mode in this where you can put the game in black and white with like a little bit of like screen tear, and it's all in Japanese with like American subtitles, and it's called Kurosawa mode.
Yeah, it's Kurosawa mode, and it also like the particles that fly by are ramped up, and the wind is ramped up to like a trillion. So like so it gives you that feel. So if you're into those types of movies, it's not quite the caricature of like the Western type of kung fu movies where you're surrounded by a group of enemies and they're all dancing while one of them attacks you at a time. Like you can get swarmed in this game.
Yeah,
but
I've seen it happen.
Yeah,
and you're like, there's too many. I have to leave.
I got to get out of here. But at the same time, when you have a standoff, like if you challenge them, they will come at you one at a time, but they're all pretty much in front of you within that 180 degree flow, and they're all standing there looking to see what the standoff what happened with the standoff with the guy in front of you. And everybody, you're posturing and feinting, and it's almost like whoever lunges first loses, because you lunge first and you open yourself up.
Yeah.
And then the other person hits you. So there's that. And then the most beautiful thing as far as combat is really the duels, because the duels is literally you and another person starting off the proper way. It's just 1-on-1. I think the enemy usually has a different type of animation, whether they're holding on to their sword and getting ready to pull it out, or they have it out already. And Jin Sakai pretty much exclusively does the same thing, which is he grabs onto his sword, which is sheathed,
puts his thumb
on it, and just kind of clicks it out a little.
Yeah.
And like, to me, that's one of those gangster moves. Like, I'm just gonna.
Well, that's popping the button on your revolver.
Yeah,
like, that's what that is. It's popping the button. You're like, look, I'm ready. Are you ready? Because I'm ready.
I don't think you're ready for what's about to pop off.
Yeah.
And so he does that. He clicks it, pulls out the sword, and then you're actually like, you're not using no ghost, nothing. Like none of your tools are available. You are parrying, dodging, and attacking. And it's a very pure type of combat, minus the fact that you can use any of the techniques that you have at your disposal. So you learn these techniques as you go.
That's just Rocky switching from being left-handed to right-handed or whatever. Or right-handed to left-handed.
And I mean, you have some shots that are unblockable and things like that, but they use up your resolve in this game, but they use up your resources, so it's not like you could just go in and start swinging willy-nilly. And then the last thing is Ghost Stance, which is about a little ways into the game. You get this, in addition to all the stances that you can switch off that are good against a certain type of enemy, the Ghost Stance just gives you 3 free kills. So
Oh,
it
well, that's
makes the entire
how generous of it.
well, it makes the entire screen black and white, and you can run up to 3 people, just attack them, and they just die. And when you hit them, the screen turns red. So,
That's cinematic too.
Yeah, it's a cinematic, like, whoosh, got you. Like, it. For those of you who are not familiar with samurai movies, or who were not fans of them, I would say just think Kill Bill. That's kind of like the feel that this has. And Kill Bill, I say because it was based on a lot of that Japanese, and Kill Bill Volume 1.
Kurosawa,
Yeah, it was based
Volume 1, yeah, definitely, but
based on a lot of that. So, that last duel between Beatrix Kiddo and I forget what Lucy Liu's character's name was, but that whole, like, everything is completely still and the little water spigot goes bloop.
And the snow falling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly that. Snow falling actually is a good segue to the graphics to this game, which the color palette to this is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like,
I've watched you play a little bit, and I'm impressed with colors in general on this, because everything's very pretty with cherry blossoms and leaves, and autumn and water, and like just your character moving through stuff, and then like slowly gets muddy as it gets through like swampier areas and stuff, and it's very intricate. And then there's the haiku thing.
Oh,
and then like you basically sit there and you're forced almost to admire how pretty the game is.
This is the stew part for me. The haikus and the resting at a hot spring to upgrade your health. All of those, and the bamboo strikes. Every now and again, when you're eating a stew, there comes a morsel that you're like,
yeah.
Oh, there's I haven't had rutabaga in so long.
Rutabaga.
Or whatever it is. Like, oh, you put this in here?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And you stop. And that's the haiku. It's like you've just gone through an entire, like, stronghold.
Yeah.
And at the end, you challenge the general of the stronghold, and you decapitated him in front of his entire group of everybody.
Yeah.
And they all went running for the hills. They're like, the ghost! And then you leave and you're tired and there's blood on your armor, on your gear. So then you go and you see a nice little waterfall, and you're like, I think I'll compose a haiku about this waterfall.
Yeah.
And the whole game stops and allows you to do that. And it just says, hey, here's a moment for you to just reflect.
Yeah.
And be mindful. Meditation is it's very difficult. Like, I think of Red Dead 2, and I recently started Red Dead 2 restarted Red Dead 2 because I want to get footage from it. I like the way the game looks. But Red Dead 2 decided to go with this much slower paced gameplay. But it's a slower paced gameplay that happens throughout the entirety of the game. So even after you're done with the game, if you want to go from one end of the map to the next, you got to get on your horse and start riding.
Yeah.
There's no like...
Which is the way I play most games that have fast travel. Just because I'm like, you miss so much, Take a second, smell the roses, ride your horse past, a couple of... landmarks and see what you can find, which was my Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind, Breath of the Wild. It's those. There were so many times in playing Breath of the Wild that we would be like, "Yo, have you been here?"
Yeah. Oh, that's and I'll tell you, this game, Ghost of Tsushima has a very robust. Not robust. It's very accessible fast travel. Like, once you visit a place, you can fast travel there. Don't do that. Don't do it, because there's so much between the little checkpoints in the game. There's so much that you can see, and it's not just like copy pasted like rocks and grass. There are points of interest that are not on the map, and you'll come across them and be like, oh, this is this. And in some cases, Jin will actually remark and be like, this is where this happened. And you're like, oh my God. And you can feel it.
Oh, so it throws some history on you too.
Yeah. It throws context, and it gives you a little exposition as to, because this is his island. This is where he grew up. So there are some parts where it's like, they'll say to Jin, this is happening in such and such homestead or such and such farm, that you, the player, doesn't know. But then you look at the map and it's clearly marked, because that dude, he's like, last time I was there, I was 7. I know where it is. This is a small island. Of course, it's right over there. So, but if you just like make a beeline for that place and you don't look around, there are points of interest that the game will say, look over here. Like all of a sudden a bird will pop up and be like, follow me. But there's other things where the game doesn't do that, and you like just look and and you know, really good open world games do that. They'll give you like a visual clue that you really have to be looking for. Breath of the Wild did that phenomenally.
Breath of the Wild did it phenomenally with also like mountainous areas, because like you'll be on a mountain climbing, and you know, you're fighting your way up or whatever, and then you get to the top of it, and then there's not just another mountain, but there's another something. Yeah. There's another thing where you're like, oh, I spent all this time, and like now I'm kind of like drained, but I want to get over there. Like I gotta go see what that is.
And there's also like, it's smart to create a map in a way that when you look across it, you see a spot in the map that like maybe you're looking at it from up high and you look down below and you're like, wait a minute, I was just at that forest. There's a clearing in the middle. Yeah. I wonder what that's for. Yeah. And so little visual cues like that. This game does that very well. Yeah. So if you are in the middle of a playthrough, like I've completed the story, and I'm pretty close to finishing. I think I've done all the collectibles that I need, but I'm a couple of achievements away from getting to 100% in the game. Okay. But I'm holding off because I don't want to start the game over and try to go achievement hunting with things that I missed in my first playthrough. I'm guessing there's going to be a new game plus coming.
Like a DLC kind of.
Yeah, like I don't think I think
you did that with what was it? God of War, the recent one. Like you started the game over, and then it's like, you know, 2 months later, it's like, oh, here's a new game plus, and you're like, oh.
So then I had to start over again and play through it. And so like I really would prefer to do the new game plus on this and go up a difficulty. Oddly enough, I didn't even realize this. I re-downloaded Shadow of War recently, and that doesn't have a new game plus. You kind of have to piecemeal it, like ramp up the difficulty and just replay the missions. So that's weird. So if they, and you know what, just a little aside and just a little bit of bitterness, you fucking people out there, we may never get another Shadow of, like, to complete the trilogy. Yeah. Even though, in a way, the Italian story got finished with that game. But I would have loved to see a third one. But why? You don't deserve one. You guys trashed the game. Anyway. Gameplay in Ghost of Tsushima.
Just, like, just rag on the people that listen to our show.
Yeah. Like,
it's their fault.
Well, you know what? It's the fault of, if you went and bashed Shadow of War because it had loot boxes, you're part of the problem. Yeah. As opposed to just don't buy the loot boxes. Simple. Yeah. But gameplay for Ghost of Tsushima. Easy stuff. The combat is very easy to learn. It's not just 2 buttons. It is like you do have to parry, you do have to dodge, and you have a light and heavy attack. But it is not super easy to make it look pretty. Like, you can make this combat look boring.
That's kind of also a thing with a lot of, like, just fighter games or whatever in general. Like, you can make it through the battle but you look jagged and rough or whatever. Or like you can throw someone on like Street Fighter 2 Turbo who's like a master of that, and
Yeah.
they're just like, oh, they didn't get hit. And they beautifully ended you.
Yeah,
like,
and you saw a 15 hit combo in a game that didn't really have combos.
yeah.
Versus fireball, fireball,
Yeah.
dragon punch,
Yeah.
fireball, fireball,
Yeah.
dragon punch. You know, that kind of thing.
They pulled out all the stops, used all their special moves, and like finished it right. And, yeah, and you're like, oh, that's an artist as opposed to just a player.
So if you look for, and you know what, I want to say all 4 games that came out, just to bring it full circle, all 4 games that were shown off in the E3 2018 Sony presser or whatever presentation, all 4 of them, not only do they, like, on the surface, Sony said, we want to tell you stories. So not only do they all tell a story,
Yeah.
and they're all single player games that accomplish a story in 4 different ways. But
You hear that, EA?
are you listening?
Are you listening?
Electronic Arts?
Somebody wants to play a game with a story in it.
Yeah, if you
Surprise,
don't give me
surprise.
a Jedi Fallen Order 2, I'm picketing. So, not only did they do that, but they also have combat systems that are simple enough if you just want to get to the story, but take some practice and take some time to master if you want to make it look good.
Yeah.
Like, you can see combo videos of Spider-Man.
Oh, I've seen some of those combo videos. Some of those are amazing.
It's insane. And you can see like really good stealth videos from Death Stranding. The aggressive stealth or aggressive outright combat. I think we've looked at videos for The Last of Us 2 where it's like, what the
it's one of 2 ways. It's like oh, they sneakily got around, weren't really seen, used distractions, used the, what are they called, the infected or whatever, to like, take out other enemies and nobody knew she was there. Or it's like, oh, here's like the Jason Voorhees like coming through and just chainsawing through people if you need to. I don't think there's a chainsaw in the game, but like
No.
it's like,
but it might as well be.
but like machete in the back of the skull and then grabbing somebody as cover and then
Machete in the back of the skull and leaving it there, and then just like, I don't need this no more. And I'm gonna
grab this guy by the neck and then using him as body armor, shoot 3 of his friends in the face and then blow his head off.
I saw a video today where,
and you're like, jeez.
I saw a video today where somebody threw a brick to get the infected's attention, and then somebody was running. One of their enemies was running from the infected when they saw it was coming at him. So they didn't even headshot him; they shot him in the leg. And it slowed him down just enough to get like completely overrun, and then they threw a Molotov cocktail at the to dust off the rest. And I'm like, just that little one move. Like, I could headshot you, but I want you to get bit.
I want you to be that squealing pig in the field, that's stuck. And they're like, oh, that one, that's the weak one. Go for him.
T-Rex doesn't like to get fed.
Yeah.
But so then the same thing with Ghost of Tsushima. Like, already you're starting to see videos of people going and doing really cool combo moves that it's like, hey, I didn't do that in my gameplay. I want to go back.
Yeah.
And I think when I do my second playthrough of this, I'm going to like normally what I do is I do like save game stacks where I'm like, all right, I have 3 points of interest in chapter 1 that I want to go back to, and a few of them in act 2 and whatever. And so I didn't do that this time. This time I just have one save game, play straight through and whatever. But when I do the second playthrough, that's going to be my thing. I want to be able to come back to any point in the game and say, let me try this again and go from here.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. It's a I can't say that I haven't done that in Skyrim or other games where it's like, okay, save. All right, I can attack this from 3 different ways. Like, what am I gonna do? And then I'll look at something and be like, okay, I'm gonna roll this rock down a hill. Is that gonna take out enough of them for me to like then just leap in and take them out, or is like that's gonna be like roll down the rock and then hide and then look for another opportunity to like see a straggler and so yeah.
That's
I'm aware.
that's gonna be the thing.
Yeah.
So overall, I'm not gonna give this game a number grade.
It's good. Go buy it.
Yeah, it's definitely one that I would get it now. I wouldn't wait. It's not a wait for sale kind of thing. Whereas in the same vein, I mean, and also the steel box to it looks really nice. It's definitely a keeper. It's not just like, I would put this up there with the God of War steel box, where it's like, it's not just the cover in steel box format. It's its own thing. But with all that said, would I make this Game of the Year candidate? I don't know. I mean, there's enough there for me to say it's a great game, but there's also enough for me to be like, just falls short in certain places where, I don't know. Given the way this year has gone and is likely to go with, you know, I'm looking at you, Marvel's Avengers. Marvel.
I'm not optimistic. I've seen some stuff. I'm not looking forward to it. I think it's going to be. I'm thinking it's going to be lackluster, and I think it's going to be missing a lot from what it's supposed to be.
I'm gonna say this: Marvel's Avengers had, to me, even with as bullish as I was on The Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima, Marvel's Avengers, from that initial like trailer where they just showed the whole thing, and it had this year locked.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's the thing right there. Especially after the emotional turmoil that we just took with, you know, the 3 phases of the MCU.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, it's yours to lose. And here they are like, well, yeah, but you know this one character that people who hang out at the comic book store know, but most people don't. That's the character. And you're like, wait, what? And you're gonna be looking for loot a lot. Oh, yeah. That's popular.
Yeah. And looking for loot, and then like, look, you're gonna be playing the same mission 30 times in a row to get the thing that you want because you want Iron Man to look a certain way.
Oh, and whatever. The most popular Marvel character of all time, for reasons of business, is going to be on one platform. Period.
Oh, I haven't heard. What is this one?
Spider-Man is a PlayStation exclusive in this game.
Oh, really?
And why? Because Spider-Man is Sony and something and blah, blah, blah. And all I hear is another fucking exclusive. Look, it's an exclusive that I stand to benefit from.
Wow.
Because you
have a PlayStation. I'm
a PlayStation guy. And even then, it still makes me sick to my stomach. Like, I feel my stomach churning when I hear about it. Because I'm like, ugh. It's one thing to say, look, Sony paid money for this intellectual property being Naughty Dog. So The Last of Us 2 is only on PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
I get that.
Yeah.
Cool. But the game,
Spider-Man belongs to everyone.
but I'm saying, like, the game Marvel's Avengers
is on everything.
Yes. And it's not like,
I think the only thing it's not on is Nintendo.
It's not like they're saying, hey, we're going to put Nathan Drake, or we're going to put like Kratos in the game. Then I'm like, all right, that's a Sony PlayStation character.
Yeah. Similar
to like how if they were going to put Link in it, I'd be like, oh, that's totally going to be on the Switch. Great.
Yeah.
This is fucking Spider-Man. This is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, it's not Spider-Man, and it's on the game, like the same developer that made like it's not an Insomniac Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's just Spider-Man, the regular Peter Parker that you get in the comic book store. You don't go to the Sony comic book store to get Spider-Man.
So what is Xbox getting? Is Xbox getting anything?
A boot in the face.
So Xbox,
you know what the response was?
and-
I'm not even kidding. You know what the response was?
what?
It was, well, there's so many other characters you can play, and if you'd love to play if you really want to play Spider-Man,
You better buy a PlayStation.
No, they said you have the opportunity to do so on PlayStation. And I'm just like, you gotta be.
Wow.
Of all the fuck you comments
It's the bag over the head, punch in the face.
on that
whole slew of things that Clark Griswold says in Vegas or Christmas Vacation. That thing.
What was it? The Jelly of the Month?
The Jelly of the Month Club. Yeah, he gets the Jelly of the Month Club.
That's what Xbox gets.
Yeah.
That's what. Is this on PC? That's what everybody else.
Everyone
that's
else
not
gets like,
PlayStation gets.
Yeah.
It's the Jelly of the Month Club.
Sony gives you a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Everyone else gets Jelly of the Month.
Yeah. That's exactly right. On that somber note, you can find me on @Zeus and Jeff on multiple platforms, Twitter, Instagram, what have you.
And I am Tatooine Hermit. You can find me exclusively on Instagram.
Exclusively, yeah, you're an Instagram exclusive. End of a Species has a Facebook page and a Facebook page, not a Facebook space, which is what I was initially going to say. And @End of a Species is the Twitter for the overall show, so you can follow to get some updates, as well as let us know what you think of the show.
Like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, hit the little bell icon, plus sign, whatever media it is that you're listening to on this. I think everything uses follow, right? Or subscribe.
Follow, subscribe. And depending on where you are, subscribe also means send money. Don't do that. Don't do the subscribe that sends money.
Yeah.
Just do the subscribe that follows.
Yeah. That lets
or
you
the
know
follow that doesn't send money.
whatever one of those is.
It's free. Like I'm literally in my house just talking into a microphone. Yeah. Don't send me money for that.
I'm in his house talking into a microphone. But anyway, thanks for showing up, listening to our rambling about a video game, and then we'll catch you next time where we're rambling about something else that's completely incoherent.
Peace.